Okay.
So unless my copy is wrong, I see 11. You said 10. I see 11 unless you typed it up
So
differently.
just want to do a quick welcome now that we're recording. We are going to upload this Zoom to YouTube. I'll probably upload it tomorrow for anybody who couldn't join us, they do want to watch it. So we're going to talk about the poem and Beyond the Map's Edge. And we now know that there are 10 clues, at least 10 clues. But if you take the stanzas and simply divide them, there's 10 K Pro. But I don't know how the punctuation lands, if there's actually 10 sentences like that or not. But anyway,
Wait, so
that's just an
periods, okay. Hey, anybody else? The other people, do you guys find 10 or 11 sentences? Because I think I think it'll be important.
That's probably why he said at least 10, right? Because the first entire stanza might just be one instead of two, right? Because it feels like it's less dense. And then right in the middle, it feels extra dense, like I think Kpro you were saying earlier. Some spots may have more than one, and that's why he can't pinpoint, right? But just my thoughts.
I'd call it 10, one question mark and nine periods.
After degree, is that a comma or a period? Mike, the one you typed up for me has a period. Is it a comma?
Let me look on the website because let's make sure I typed it
Yeah,
up
I
the right
think that's a
way.
comma looking at the website.
It's a comma.
Yeah, it's a comma. Okay, so you need to change
After
that on
degree.
your,
Yeah,
yeah,
there you go. So does that make it 10?
that makes it 10.
All right. That was a test. I wanted to see if you were paying attention or not. Okay, 10 clues. Can you find what lives in time? I mean, sounds like that would be the first thing we need to find. And that thing that lives in time is flowing through each measured rhyme. Would that be clue number one? What do you guys think?
For me, this is clue number one for me, based on the Netflix, the clock, the references in the book to time. I think it's something related to time. The second one with the measured rhyme, I don't know. I almost want to put that as a hint, even though he says not to, because we only have one pair of sentences that don't rhyme. Her foot of three at 20 degree returned to her face to whatever that the rest of the sentence was. So there's only one that doesn't measure rhyme. So I don't know if this is clue two or not. I just throw out why did he say rhyme, and everything rhymes except for the foot of three, the two sentences there. Your guys' thoughts?
And remember, if you are muted, you got unmute.
Yeah, maybe people are being a little shy. I'll jump in there. I definitely have some thoughts, right? With memory, I think there's so much memories in the book. And I think here he's trying to nudge us with those two lines, as Kpro said. That is clue number one for me too. He's trying to nudge us towards specific memories.
So memories live in time, flowing through each measured rhyme. So is that like what the poem is about? The memory of whatever he's describing here?
I think the first two portions where the question mark ends is part of part one. And like you're saying, flowing through the measured rhyme is part of the time you have to figure out through the whole poem. So that whole part would be clue one.
Alan, can you mute when you're not talking? We're getting some static feedback, but cool, no problem.
I am so sorry.
No problem at all. No problem.
Someone, if you're talking, it's real. We can't understand what you're saying.
We don't have the cipher to understand you, is what he's trying to say.
Okay. Can you find what lives in time flowing through each measured rhyme? Clue number one. Okay. Wisdom waits in shadowed sight for those who read these words just right. Is that clue number two? Wisdom waits in shadowed sight. Wisdom,
Yes.
meaning the answer waits in shadowed sight for those who read these words just right. Is that a location?
Yeah, Wisdom, Montana. So yes, it would be clue number two.
If it was only that easy.
Well, we don't know what it means yet, which we can
Right.
discuss, but I think wisdom was purposefully selected. So
Wisdom waits in shadowed sight. And is it a physical location we're looking for that is in the shadow of a mountain or something? I wonder if that's an actual location. I wonder if that is the starting location that we're supposed to find. And how will we find it if we read these words just right?
Yeah, I do think wisdom is the key word. I want to build off that, right? Because it's the one that stands out the most. It's used interestingly in the book a few times. And one of the times he describes wonder as the way children think, and it kind of suggesting that wisdom is the way adults think. So I just wonder if he's, pointing us to his father or someone here.
Okay, can you find what lives? So going back to clue one, and I'm just spitballing, guys. We're gonna go around, and anybody else, feel free to weigh in. Can you find what lives in time? Is that just the memory or whatever this poem is about, or do we think that's the location isn't until clue number two? Because in stanza two right here, we're walking now. Walk near. Now we're at a location. We're somewhere. Walk near water's silent flight. So it sounds like between these two, we're supposed to have a starting location, and then we go there, and we're actually walking, or maybe on Google Maps, looking around, whatever.
I liked what JBR said with can you find what lives in time? These are the memories and those are the pointers that you get from the book, but these will get you to, like, I think the question you may be asking that I just want to throw out, are we looking for 10 points? We know we go point to point. Are we looking for 10 points, or are some of these clues kind of how you, like, I almost think 1 and 2 could potentially be how you are going to interpret when you get now your boots on the ground, and boots on the ground starts in stanza 2, or maybe not.
Just for what it's worth, the first time I read it, when I saw "Can you find what lives in time," I took that as minutes and seconds live in time. So I was thinking GPS.
Yeah, and that combo lock could, if those are GPS numbers, that hint could just be look. GPS is part of it, and GPS could be one way to get to the location. Maybe there's more than one way. That is a good question for him. Is there more than one way to find a location in your book?
But it could be the starting location. I think that's what Alex is saying, is like,
Yeah,
so
just
that's where you start. So
Yeah.
you get the starting location, but you still have to get 10 more or 9 more points.
But if that's the case, let's say, can you find what lives in time is minutes and seconds, like degrees, or I'm sorry, minutes and seconds for GPS. Flowing through each measured rhyme, does that mean from this poem we're supposed to derive numbers for GPS to find the starting location? Is this the measured rhyme he's referring to?
Could flowing refer to a river using flowing?
Through each measured rhyme.
Is what you're saying the river would flow through each one of these clues, so it would be a singular river?
Maybe just clues pointing to a river. I'm not sure. I just got my book delivered literally about 2 hours ago. So I haven't read the book yet. It just arrived. But flowing makes me think of river. Maybe it's just a starting point, or I'm not sure. But flowing just makes me think of river.
So possibly a river. Okay. I like it. I would not have read it that way, but yeah, I'm open to anything since obviously we don't know what's right and what's not. For those who read these words just right. So 2 clues in the first stanza. Does anybody disagree? And I wonder if it is simply a clue per sentence. We don't know, but
when he's mentioning
you're breaking up, Alan. We can't really hear you.
just right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Where he says, if you read these words just right, and I've gone through and looked, but if you go through stanza 4, 3, and 2 backwards and stuff, it gives you a different view of the whole poem, of course.
Yeah, I think you're suggesting like that might be the nod that this is a cipher or code, or yeah.
For those who read these words just right, or maybe we take it out of order. The order is presented isn't correct, but then he'd have to tell us what the right order
Yeah, he
is.
said he'd call me later.
All right, Kathy, I'm gonna have to mute you. There we go. Interesting.
He could be just making that could be a statement too for those who read these words just right. So, in other words, right from that,
And
Yeah, that
Yeah, I'm
I
thinking
was
it means
I was
like you're
kind of
just
hearing that.
interpreting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of hearing that as it was being read over and over. I think we've got the gist of stanza one. I think the only other interpretation to get super literal would be the last sentence for those who read these words. Almost place a comma there, just right, meaning bear right, focus on the right. I don't know how likely
Yeah.
that is, but
Right
Yeah.
alignment of the words. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the more obtuse meaning of it rather than just taking it literally at first glance.
Or could he just mean the interpretation of the poem the right way? Read the words just right? Or do you think it's literal?
I think if you take it with wisdom, weights, and shadowed sight for those who read these words just right, because we are thinking more couplets for these. I think this is probably our biggest nod in the entire poem of a checkpoint, right? This checkpoint waits in shadowed sight, just waiting for us to find it.
Interesting. It would be nice if the checkpoint was right in the beginning when we go boots on the ground. That would be nice to know
And
I'm in the right track.
and the shadowed sight might indicate exactly that. So
Give me 1 second. Okay. Check something.
yeah,
so
I'm
for
very
those
interested
who
in
read
opening the topic of checkpoint in general. This might be a good place in the poem to do it, but I'm curious to see what everyone thinks a possible checkpoint could be that would provide zero doubt in our minds that we're trending in the right direction. That's such strong language.
That's what
What
keeps us up at night.
what do you think this line, return her face to find the place? Is that like an actual physical action we need to do? And is that the checkpoint? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea what that means, but
I
return.
think we were on track with clue 1, clue 2. Let's keep going through stanza 2, I think.
All right. All right.
And then I love the checkpoint discussion, but I think we should get through 10 and then go back to where would be most obvious that checkpoint.
Okay. As hope surges clear and bright, walk near water's silent flight. So to me, I take it literal that this is definitely now we have an action. We're supposed to be at a location. Do you guys read it the same way? We are boots on the ground right here.
Yes, I agree.
As hope surges clear and bright. I wonder if that's a clue to the
I take
location.
surges as a river word also.
Yeah, hope surges. That's true. There is a whole river, and somebody pointed out in the very last stanza, just not to skip around, but to keep it in mind, like a river's steady flow. So there's definitely something to do with a river. So is this clue number 3? And by clue number 3, are we supposed to have a starting location? I mean, it kind of reads that way.
I think we have a starting location in 1 personally, but
As hope surges clear and bright. So is that a river or is that just a flowery description of a place? Is clear and bright an actual clue to or a hint to something? So river possibly in stanza 1, river possibly in stanza 2. But it does seem like we are supposed to have a starting location. We're supposed to walk. And now water's silent flight. I mean, a waterfall is not silent, right? There's somebody who posted on one of our YouTube videos, water silent flight could be snow. I like
I agree
that.
with the water. I agree with the waterfall because it's going to be silent as it's going through the air.
The flight of the water is silent. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So are we looking for a waterfall? All
it
right.
could be a geyser as well. I mean, usually it's not very loud and they spew out. I mean, Old Faithful is, but there's so many you sit in. Yeah.
I think what's important here is the punctuation. The apostrophe is after the S, which means it's in reference to multiple bodies of water. It's not a possession of a singular body of water.
Kind of like how where Warm Water's Halt was for the forest.
Yeah, that's a great catch.
Rivers. I don't know why this blue line is here.
So geysers would be relevant.
Okay.
One of the interviews I saw with Justin too, someone had asked how long he spent making that poem, and supposedly it only took him about 4 to 6 hours compared to the Forest Fern or Finn, it took him about 10 years. So, I mean, the overthinking it could be really really simple. And that's the hard part. It's like, where do you start? And then it unravels as really being simple.
You've also got to take into consideration that he's an over intellectual at the age of 40 compared to someone who's in their 80s. No offense to Flynn.
100%.
Yeah, agreed.
I do think water's silent flight could also be something like a canyon or something where the water's left its marks. It's silent now, right?
But we can't agree. Stanza 2, we're boots on the ground in a location, wherever that may
Yeah, I haven't heard anyone say otherwise, although I do see it seems like more than half of the people who are posting theories are using the later stanzas to identify geographical locations, which just doesn't seem to fit if we're already walking somewhere.
right. So
So it does just seem, yeah, it seems so difficult to extract a location out of the first stanza and already be walking and then already be supposedly within a mile of the treasure at this point. But
I think it
I
was
think that's
you,
what we're all
Voyager,
saying
that
here.
mentioned the first stanza where it says just right. I think that could be like a place marker at your first spot, something you notice on the right and you're in the right direction. That could be your first place marker.
I think we're driving.
Yeah,
I might
that's
be
what
the
I was
only
gonna
one.
say.
I think
I
we're
might be the
actually
only one who thinks
driving.
we're not walking at
I
the
don't
second
think.
stanza. It's too soon for me.
Yeah, I think we're actually on the ground, but we're traveling from one clue to the next.
Yeah, like if we have 10 plot points, I personally am not thinking we get out to boot our feet on the ground until maybe 7 or 8. I think there are.
That could be that very well could be, but I think that you're going to recognize something here at this point on the right. I mean,
Yeah, I think there's plot points along
Yes.
like a map or a location, but you do not
Yes.
need to get physical. Like I'm not taking clue 3 through 10 to be my feet are on the ground on 3. My feet might be on the ground at 7 or 8. But you're definitely seeing things. Each of these plot points is something you're seeing. A geyser, a lake, a fishing hole, whatever it is.
Well, and that takes us right into the next stanza because we have whole capitalized, which is what? Person, place. So it sounds like it's a location. Round the bend. So if we're walking near water silent flight, around the bend past the hole, so does that mean it's a named location on a map, like 9 Mile Hole? Some kind of fishing hole or something else?
Before we jump to that next one, I just wanted to say one thing. The clear and bright, in reference to water silent flight, those two seem connected as one clue. So water silent flight being clear and bright.
As hope surges, clear and bright, walk near water, silent flight. So you could say a waterfall is clear and bright, I guess, as the water comes down.
I lean that direction. Yeah, I lean that direction because those tie together directly.
For me, I think of dams because dam is very connected with surge. It's like a very mechanical, technical thing. Like a surge is a defined thing, part of a dam. And for me, when water is clear and bright, clear, I think of either white or aerated. And when water is high pressure with air, that's when it becomes like white water, like it's really moving fast. I tie that with bright also. So I think of that first line to me, I think of like a dam. I'm looking for a dam.
I really like that idea because the connection between bright and dam, right? Your dam is generating electricity if you're at a hydroelectric station.
I think you could definitely still use this as we're driving too. We could be driving past all these places.
Yeah. So let's mark it as waterfall or dam.
It's a water feature of some sort.
For those who think that we're not literally walking at this point, I'm curious how we interpret the word walk then.
That's a good point.
Well, like 9 Mile Hole.
Walking through his memories.
Walking through his memories, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what I interpreted it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The only devil's advocate I would say towards maybe we are on boots on the ground here is we have to remember this is not the same as usual, and there is a checkpoint. So maybe I think Justin's alluded a little bit to the certainty of the checkpoint will require boots on the ground.
Did he? I mean, that would make the most sense. The checkpoint would have to be boots on the ground, but I don't know if he actually said that, did he? And
His
then,
words are just circling the word certainty, but he's not very explicit with what he says.
and then it's a checkpoint for him as well. He just smiled and wouldn't answer the question, but it's a way for him to know when somebody is in the right location. I think that makes the most sense. Now, but then, well, okay, like Kpro said, let's go over checkpoint when we get to the end of the poem. So if we are supposed to be at a physical location, the hole, whatever it's called, somebody said in the chat, Jackson Hole, is it? Jackson Hole. He wears the Sims outfit in gold and greed. Sims company was started in Jackson Hole. So fishing hole, 9 Mile Hole, Jackson Hole. Hole, we think, is a location, and I guess the word hole would be in the name. I wait for you to cast your pole. Well, that makes it sound like it's a fishing hole, right?
Agreed.
Or could cast your pole mean something different? I guess is the question. Is he doing a double meaning? Throw us off here. And not
It could
even
be setting your compass, because when you're setting your compass, you got to cast your North Pole, right? I mean, that's a stretch, but it could be.
And that could easily tie into what comes up a little later too.
A compass?
The next line talks about northeast.
No, setting your compass correctly with the azimuth adjustment.
So when he says, I wait for you to cast your pole, is that an action? Are we actually supposed to do that, whatever it means? And I guess if you're setting something as far as a compass, that would make sense, because I don't think he just means go fishing, like have fun while you're there and go fishing. I wait for you to cast your pole.
I mean, maybe he tossed the key to the chest in a pond, and we've got to fish it up from some fish's mouth. Mr. Hole himself, perhaps.
Or cast your polarity.
Okay, so it looks like so far we are thinking a clue per line. Let's see if it continues for the rest. In Ursa East, his realm awaits. The first thing is it's not capitalized. What does that mean, that Ursa is not capitalized? Are constellations or stars usually capitalized in a sentence?
Well, there's Little Dipper and Big Dipper, which is both Ursa the mother and Ursa the child. And in my opinion, this then points to the Little Dipper. Potentially. I know some people think it's plot points, and I think it actually could be cleverly both. Yeah, Little Dipper has Polaris as a star. Polaris is where he has his Montana home.
I'd love to add a point to this. So in like proper grammar, if you're writing about Earth and it's just Earth itself, it's not capitalized. But if you're writing about, say, Earth in conjunction to Mars, they both would be capitalized. So there's a couple ways you could possibly look at the fact that Ursa is not capitalized. One would be that either it's referring to not the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper, but both of them, because they are similar. They're in a similar place in the sky, right? So both Ursas could be east if he's talking about constellations. The second piece would be if he is referring to one or the other specifically, because it's not actually mentioned with another celestial body, technically it wouldn't be capitalized.
Yeah, but the Ursa East, it says his realm, and so the him would be Zeus, right? Because otherwise it's a her. Ursa's a her. The his part, who she hooked up with and had this baby with, is Zeus.
Right.
I mean,
that
not
could
even
definitely be that could definitely be a clue. This is Miriam. I'm with my mom, and I was just posting in the poem stuff, but I do want to just back up and throw out another possible idea for the first stanza. I'm sorry, I can't see it on there. Let me go back. There you go. Yeah. What you can find that lives in time. So if you Google star clocks are a way that ancients told time, just the same way that if you see the sun is in the east, it's the morning. So if you look up and you think about what you can find, or can you find what lives in time flowing through each measured rhyme, wisdom waits and shadowed sight, that could all be referring to a star clock, and shadowed sight would be constellations that are not visible at certain times of year in the northern hemisphere. So if you are talking about a star clock, there are four main constellations that the ancients used to tell time. And two of those happen to be both Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, because you have the dot in the middle of the star clock would actually be the North Pole, or I'm sorry, the North Star Polaris. So if you think of it in terms of a clock with the hands, the dot in the middle being the North Pole, or sorry, North Star, going back to whoever mentioned the azimuth earlier, if you look up that weird little symbol that he has all over his website and stuff, it is called a, let me get my notes here really quick. It's called an angzar, and that's Angzarr, and it's an obscure typographical symbol representing the azimuth. And the azimuth is an Arabic word that it literally means directions. So it's the horizontal angle from a cardinal direction, most commonly north, in a local or observer-centric spherical coordinate system. So you, the observer, you basically put in a star in that equation, and it gives you a combination basically of a certain percentage, which actually ends up being 20%, which I think is fascinating. So if you add in there that the North Star is 0 degrees, then your azimuth is going to be 20 degrees, and it literally gives you coordinates on the map. So I think that Ursa East and his bride stands guard at ancient gates, her foot of 3 at 20 degree, return her face to find the place. I believe that that is all talking about the four constellations that are in a star clock, and that it gives you not only in the whole thing, he gives you what, when, where, but he gives you a what time, like when to be there. And I don't think it's meant that you're supposed to go out and search at nighttime, because that's a safety issue, obviously, in the mountains. But it does give you that if you are boots on the ground in a location and you know where this constellation rises out of the horizon, you would know what direction to walk from where you're at.
So you think it's just a direction he's giving us here?
Yes, I do.
How dependent would that be? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how dependent would that be on season, though, whether you're there beginning of summer or in the fall?
That's
where that constellation is positioned?
really great question. And the bride who stands at ancient gates, which I think ancient gates are your horizon. That's your horizon between the southern and northern hemisphere. Her foot of 3 at 20 degree, that actually references a specific bride to one of the four constellations in a star clock. And when she comes up, she's only actually visible certain times of year. So I do think that I think there's a timing element that, I mean, of course you could access it and kind of figure it out based off of star maps, right? Or apps and stuff, because clearly you can research all of that ahead of time. But back to K-Pro's point, I think all of these things lead us to a location before we're actually boots on the ground, and it would actually line up in that very first stanza, which then would allow you to be literally walking near water's silent flight with your feet on the ground at that point.
But what do you think return her face means? If it is a constellation, return her face means we can see it? It's a certain point of the year when you can see the constellation?
Yep, when she returns, because I think this particular constellation is in the southern hemisphere for a certain amount of time. So when Ursa is in the east, this constellation is on the opposite side and is actually not visible in the northern hemisphere. So there's certain times of year that constellation comes back visible, and I think that's what that's talking about.
Cassiopeia, right?
Actually, I don't think it's Cassiopeia.
Or is it?
Andromeda.
Andromeda? I thought that was a galaxy.
Andromeda is a galaxy. I'll tell you who, you can easily Google this with bride and it'll come up and tell you who it is. But I'll tell you the other.
Constellation, that's bride, basically. Okay.
Yeah. His bride stands guard at ancient gates. I think his is Orion. And I think it's Orion's bride. And there's one star specifically that's Orion's bride.
But if it's
Do you think
Ursa, Ursa's him is Zeus, and Zeus had a wife. Ursa was the mistress. Why do you think?
We don't know that it's Ursa specifically, though. It's in Ursa East, his realm awaits.
Okay.
So
are you suggesting that the his in the first line, his realm, is Orion's realm, and then his
I think
bride
it's
is also
Orion.
Orion's bride?
Yeah, Orion, the bride, I believe, is Orion's bride.
And obviously, that is who we have to figure out. Who is the he, and then her foot. Who is the she? Who is the her?
Right.
Right. So that is
Because
part of the puzzle.
yeah, and her foot 3 at 20 degree. This particular star is actually known as star 23. She sits at a clock of 20 degrees. And interesting enough, when Ursa is actually in the east, where this particular star sign is, if you look at the heavens as like a clock face, interesting enough, the two hands are 606, which is the time that he goes up and starts winding the clock in Netflix video. So I think that's pretty fascinating to me.
Say that one more time. What time?
Okay, so 606. If you're watching the Netflix video, 606 is when he stands up and goes back. That's what's on the clock, right? When he goes back to start winding the clock face. If you look at the circle with the North Star being in the center and the two clock hands being Ursa East and Orion and Taurus, which is where the bride is in, she's in Taurus. If you look at those across, they make that 60, they make that same time period on the clock, on it visible. Like that's what it looks like with North Star being the middle. And Ursa East Ursa, the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper are both on up at the like 606, like the 06 point, and then where Orion and Taurus are down by the 6 o'clock.
Well, the problem though is if you believe him that he has no idea what they were going to put in. I mean, how would he know that's even in there? How would he know what time in the program that was going to appear? You know what I mean?
He wouldn't, which is why he's obviously put this in multiple places. I think that's why he's got that little Angzar, and it's layered multiple places, not just off the clocks. I just happened to notice at the clock when I was looking at just literally the circle with the dot going down this rabbit hole of the azimuth, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at these all line up with certain things, including 20 degrees, the way that they look, like visual cue looking at it. So I don't know. I'm just saying it's all very fascinating to me from a visual perspective that it all kind of lines up. But I think that this concept of, I mean, he literally says in the book, in the chapter titled Treasure Trail, he has a line that says waiting on the stars. So, I just started looking, like I started, doing keyword searches in the ebook.
Mm-hmm.
And pulling stuff up. So I just think it's interesting that, I think it's really interesting that where I have pieced together the stuff from this is really from the website, from the poem, and from the book, and Netflix just visually kind of cued me. And, regarding your initial question, here's my two thought processes on it. Justin either knew, that there was a possibility that Netflix was going to say, no go, this is not, we can't pass this through legal, so we have to edit all of this out, right? That was one option that he was like, okay, I have to back it up on both the website, poem, in the book, because Netflix could just totally be like, nope, we can't get approval from legal to move forward with, including any of this in the documentary. So they obviously got some level of approval from their from their legal people, because otherwise none of this would. I mean, even though they did have their disclaimer saying, we're not telling you to go out and look and blah blah blah, all that stuff. But so I think one of two things. What's more likely, that Justin just knew that, okay, there's going to be editing, time stamps are not going to necessarily matter. It could be jumbled all up in the, in the editing of the place. So I'm just going to totally throw it all to the wind, or I'm going to go ahead and put it in and know that people will line up based off of time frames what I'm talking about each time and sort of kind of piece together their own clues based off of how Netflix did it. I think Justin's more methodical than just throwing it to the wind personally, and that he probably figured that some of the stuff is going to make it in, some of it's not. Like obviously the combo lock that you guys shared, like that made it in. But I think to your point, he didn't know. So he backed himself up in multiple places.
So I guess let's just, I understand what you're saying. It kind of makes sense, but I guess let's just focus on the poem because that could be a whole other Zoom where we could go through all that. But let me ask you a question, and then I think we'll move on to the next, or if anybody else has any comments on this stanza. If what you say is true, if you think Orion is his realm and you found the constellation, which is the bride, does it give you a location? Return her face to find the place. How would you do that in order to get a location? To find the place. So if the theory that you're proposing is correct, I'm not sure how we would use that to get to find the place.
Well, she rises, the bride. If you're like boots on the ground, like let's say you're walking towards water's edge, right? And your boots on the ground. The constellation that is Orion's bride is going to rise in a certain place on the sky, right?
Right. Okay.
So that would literally give you an idea of if your boots on the ground, okay, I'm going to go to the left. I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to go, you know what I mean?
So it gives you a direction. Okay. I agree with that. So not really, oh, I see. Find the place. We haven't found the place yet. We just know which direction to go to find it.
Exactly.
Okay. See, I took it as it's a location. It's not, it's a direction. Okay. I think I can buy that. All right.
Yeah. I think it's a direction like it's laid over a compass, like the top, like the top of a compass.
Interesting.
And presumably this direction is determined beforehand using star knowledge, and you seek that heading in the day, because night hunting does seem a little bit risky.
Well, what's interesting is this particular, yes, absolutely. So that's what I would do if I were like literally boots on the ground out. I would look at, because clearly at certain times the constellation is going to be visible in the night sky. So you could just make a note of what direction, they come in at. But interesting enough, this particular star rises in the morning just before dawn. So you wouldn't technically be hunting in the nighttime. You would be actually getting up, referencing the direction when you can still see it as the sun is coming up, and then you could set out onto your journey.
And you don't think Ancient Gates is a location? You think that's the hemisphere you're saying?
I think Ancient Gates is that cross-reference line in the azimuth that a star would cross over the northern or the southern hemisphere to where it would be visible, in the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere. I think that's what Ancient Gates is. I think that's why she's waiting at Ancient Gates, because you have to have the right time of year for her to pass through that to be able to actually be seen in our hemisphere where the hunt is happening.
So this stanza does seem dense. Are we detecting 4 clues here, 1 per line? Is that kind of a consensus, or are there less?
So I personally think it's 2 because you need the information. So Ursa East, the realm awaits. To me, he threw up the 2 bears, and that's what make Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. His bride stands at the ancient gates. I think that's Hera, who was the entire reason that Zeus had to turn them into bears and throw them into the sky, is because Hera was trying to kill them. And then her foot of 3, if you look at the constellation of the bear, there is only 3 legs in the stars that are up above. And then return her fate. That's the piece I don't understand. But I think in Ursa East, the realm awaits. I don't understand why there is a semicolon here rather than a comma. But I think perhaps because Ursa East is the mistress, and then the bride, and then the him, which is Zeus, and then the bride is Hera. And that's the entire reason we suppose in mythology that we have those stars in the sky, is because of those 3. So for me, it's the same kind of concept of using the constellation and stars with the mythology, but I take Ursa as the mistress, Zeus as the husband, and his bride is Hera, and that's again the entire reason that those constellations even exist. and then her foot of 3 is Ursa. And if you look at the diagram of those stars, you only see 3 of 4 legs up in the sky.
So for semicolons primarily connect two closely related independent clauses. It acts as like a super comma. So I think that's a key. There, he chose to use a semicolon instead of a regular colon. Use a semicolon instead of a regular comma, because a regular comma would kind of have two different thoughts, but a semicolon would have two kind of related thoughts.
Well, and if you're in the Forrest Fenn hunt, the semicolon was a hotly debated topic for 10 years. Exactly.
I'm not talking Fenn. I'm just talking grammar.
Well, I'm saying if Forrest, I was adding to the thought of Forrest used the semicolon exactly for the discussion of bringing these two together. Justin has a grounding in the Forrest Fenn hunt, so I think exactly what you're saying, adding on to it, it's relevant is the point.
Okay, in a
How do you
few
think
words,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
he could also be saying, "This is your bearing," and then continuing with the other, getting a different azimuth. Azimuth doesn't always have to be off of the same point. Like everybody assumes, oh, you find the North Star and that's your azimuth. He might be leading us to the azimuth.
Right. Do you think the bears could be, Ursa could be the star that the azimuth is created off of? Because you do pick your own star in the azimuth, right?
Right, but I like the direction that you went with the bride, okay? And because it's a semicolon, he's telling us that that's our bearing. So get there and this becomes your bearing.
So if we were to take the azimuth, like let's say I'm accurate in the solve about the azimuth part of it, but K-Pro's accurate about Ursa and Zeus. K-Pro, how do you see the bears like in that mythology? What is return? Is there something that relates return her face to find the place in that? How would you see that being applying to that?
Well, that's where I haven't fully processed it, but this is where I think we are boots on the ground. And again, referencing back the twist in the Fenn poem is where you had to turn back. You actually had to redirect at Home of Brown back to the creek because you passed it. I think there is some sort of twist here, boots on the ground of wherever you're at, you are now turning back to get to the 20-degree spot, and then you literally have to turn back in some way to get to wherever that next directional spot point to point is. That's my thought. So there's almost like a double meaning here, like I think in several of the others. I think there's wordplay between the stars connection and the boots on the ground connection. So I think we have 2 layers here.
Has anyone tried to use constellations? Because there's a lot of talk of constellations, but look for them on a map, specifically this map. Like, has anyone tried to find the constellations on here? Because both Ursa Major and Ursa Minor kind of have little tails of 3. And if you look on this map, there's not too many places where there's 3 dots, 3 marks in a row. And if you notice, he uses the same dot for a city, but also a park. He doesn't differentiate between a city and a park, which most maps do, but his map he doesn't. And so if you're looking for tails, where there could be major or minor, there's very few spots on here. The one, which is why I keep saying New Mexico, is Alamogordo, Cloudcroft, and White Sands. It's 3 in a row that look just like a tail of Ursa Major or Minor. To me, that's the only way I would see a constellation, is either on this map or looking at a city's a Google Map, Google Earth. I think he doesn't expect you to do celestial navigation. It's too complicated to shoot times and azimuths during the day and the night. No one's looking for twilight to shoot stuff. But looking at a map and finding a constellation, I think that's pretty doable.
Yeah, I agree mostly, but I do think we're a little too late in the poem to be finding our geographic location. I think we're already walking at this point, so I don't know how to reconcile those two concepts.
That's why I think reading the 4-3-2 in that order for the poem, just kind of that gives you that different direction. It kind of makes more sense to me.
This might be an area though where the existence of a checkpoint allows us to accept that maybe, there's 2 moments of boots on the ground where maybe this is a place where you do use the constellations.
Well, I do think it's interesting, not to get too far off track, but he does use a star for each of the state capitals, and he does not include Oregon in the state capital as a state capital, but every other state he does. And is that
That
because
was
it
list.
didn't fit a certain pattern, or is there a meaning there that we need to really dive into? That
That
could
was
be.
addressed in the errata page of the website. That was erroneous.
Yeah, he mentioned in this is Julie, Miriam's mom. He mentioned in one of the videos that we watched that the lack of that the missing state capital as well as some misspellings of some of the words were accidental, not intentional, have no meaning to anything.
Okay.
Okay. There's a lot happening in this stanza, that's for sure. But do you guys think we have to be for any of this to work, if we are doing 20 degrees off something, you have to be in the right location, right? So by stanza 3, whether we're actually boots on the ground there or not, we have to have the location. We are doing this, whatever this is, off of a particular location.
Is it degrees or degree?
In the poem, I'm on the website. It is degree, singular. Her foot of 3 at 20 degree. No S.
Do we see any relevance in the S not being there, or
20 degrees?
Not until you said that, and now I do. That was a good catch. Just like the apostrophe.
And it doesn't rhyme anyway, so
yeah, this is our only
had
paired
an
line
idea
that does
about
not
this.
agree.
3
Guys, you wanna
degree.
hear?
Yeah. 3 degree, I guess, is what rhymes, but it does change up the rhyming pattern. And this is the halfway
Sound?
point in the.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to mute you, Guaca. I'm not sure.
I don't know if it's relevant, but I noticed that because when I noticed the end of every stanza ends with the same letter twice. So like the first one, like for example, TT, then EE, SS, then EE. I thought it just had to do with rhyming, but then when I got to that one, I realized it didn't rhyme. So I don't know if there's something to that every stanza ends with the same letter. The first 2 lines ends with the same letter, and then it changes letter. At first, I thought it was like SSEE, like south south east east, or west west for the W. But I don't know. That's all I
I
noticed.
was thinking maybe 20 degrees Fahrenheit, like a cold place, snowy highlands, mountains.
So in his book, he referenced a way of measuring temperature in the depths of water. 20 degrees at 3 feet, maybe? No?
I was thinking
No
it's
relation
just
to her
high,
face, though.
high in the mountains. That's the clue. I'm not sure.
So it seems like there's 2 clues here, but are there more than 2? I mean, I guess there could be. Depends how you read it. In stanza 3. Okay, stanza 3. There's a lot to unpack.
I think they're down to 2 clues. I mean, it's
5 and 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6. And like I said, the Ursa's statement is a direction to the rest of that sentence.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. You need the second part to interpret the first part. So even though you might be able to pick it apart into 2, since both pieces are essential to interpret, I would put it as 1 for now.
Yeah. And even if you're saying that is your new bearing, and that's what bear east, but I mean that's a common navigational statement. Bear north, bear east, bear right. So he could the Ursa could just be using the bear and alluding to how to get your new bearing. right? Which was what she was describing earlier. But anyway, we can move on.
Okay, I think Mike
I
got a
had this
call. That's
thought
why he.
about
Yeah. Go
about three, that maybe like there is three sets of clues and another set, like four elements of clues. The first one is just a single clue, maybe something in the opening, some general thing. And then like there is three clues, then the next three clues, then the next three clues. Each one are like for the stages. I'm mostly looking just on the Google Earth, turning the map around, zooming in and out, the Rockies, looking for some lady, you know. I think I found one with the around this place in Montana, like if you turn the map where the west is on top, there is some kind of head and brain there, you know. The could go along
Okay.
like with.
Can we go ahead and move on the track that we were going?
All right. Yeah, there's a lot in stanza 3. Let's go down to stanza 4. Double arcs on granite bold where secrets of the past still hold. Beyond the reach of time's swift race, wonder guards this sacred place. I'm kind of lost on all that. I mean, double arcs, is that a physical feature? Is that a landmark? Double arcs, it sounds like it, on granite bold, side of a mountain, maybe?
I forget who said it a while ago, but I think it's a good time to point out the deeper we go, because we don't have anything else solved, the harder these become, right? Like a lot of people who think they have these bottom parts solved, it's these are the hardest ones. But
I think a lot of people were just looking for double arcs. Hey, on the map, this looks like a double arc, and that's it. Yeah.
Every McDonald's.
Yeah, there is some granite double arc features in some areas, such as Montana and Utah are the most obvious ones. So I think that's definitely like clue number 7. And then the secrets of the past hold, I think it has some sort of lure where Justin said you have to know the lure of the clue. So again, I kind of put this as 1 as clue 7. So it's, double arcs, not with some sort of history, secret, lure past to it. That's just my opinion.
The key phrasing, I think, I wonder if anybody's got thoughts on this, is granite bold, right? Like that's the one I can't figure out why he would have written it exactly that way.
Where secrets of the past still hold. Secrets of the past still hold. Maybe petroglyphs or something?
Most of the interpretations I've heard for the word arc is
I got
actually people
petroglyphs.
just thinking that it's an arch. I'm curious if anyone else sees the word arc differently.
Instead of arch?
Yeah, because he could say arch, right? If he's talking about arches, but why say arc? That's a different thing in my mind.
Granite and arc together could poetically suggest history, I think.
I like what you were saying, Mike, about the petroglyphs. I agree with that one.
Voyager, do you have another interpretation?
I'm sorry, one more time.
Did you have a different interpretation? Like I see it as a circular. I see those one and the same for how I'm interpreting it. It's like a circular, a piece of a like circumference of a circle, if you will, but which definitely could be an arc. So I saw those very similar. Did you? Yeah, and like Stephanie saying, arc is electric as well. That's the second definition. So do you see it interpreted differently, or just kind of throwing out the idea?
Yeah, I'm kind of just wondering what everyone's thoughts are. I do think one other interpretation may be just a geometric shape, just sort of a half circle, right? It's the simplest way
Right.
to use the word arc.
A
is
curved
a
shape.
curve,
Yeah.
a curve, right?
So if it is a petroglyph, does that mean in the petroglyph there are 2 arcs? So in other words, double arcs on granite bold, comma, so we're still continuing where secrets of the past still hold. Is it something that's on the side of a mountain or side of just a granite face that has 2 arcs in it?
If you look at some pictures of the petroglyph park down there in New Mexico, there are 2 that look like the Table of Commandments. They're like, Table of Commandments, like the arch. There's a couple distinguished ones on there. There's also on like a larger scale, and I had it for gates. There's like I forget the word, but when there's like a mesa wall and then there's like a slit in the middle that kind of looks like gates. Some of the geography over there really matches.
Yeah, he could also be telling us that there's a double oxbow.
Double ox? Oh, double arcs?
Double oxbow.
Oh, oxbow.
Yeah.
One thing I kept getting hung on, my son corrected me, so maybe it's worth mentioning, is double arcs on granite bolt, not of granite, right? So some people had some thoughts of things that weren't made of granite, but remember that it does suggest there it's on, not of. So
Yeah. So just to clarify that a little bit, so that anybody can dig into it. If there's a granite slab or a granite rock on a river's path, it diverts its path, forms an oxbow, which is going back to other treasure searches. That's what an oxbow is. It's an omega, so like a double omega. Obviously, there were some double omegas in the past that that could be a little shout out, but take it for what it is.
Beyond the reach of
I think that's a great catch. The double arcs. So the double arcs are not necessarily double arcs on granite. So the pillars of whatever is holding these arcs are granite, not necessarily the arcs above it. I think that's what someone was saying. I like that a lot.
Or if it's a petroglyph, I mean, they drew on it. Well, would it be drawn or carved? I guess if they use some kind of pigment, it could be drawn on. I don't know. I guess it depends if we find it, it'll make sense. Where secrets of the past still hold. Okay, so if let's say we find it, these are the double arcs. They're on this granite cliff or mountain face, whatever. Beyond the reach of time's swift race, wonder guards this sacred place. So it's a sacred place, which to me, Indian could be petroglyphs, sacred place. Wonder guards this sacred place. So that's a
Hey, Mike,
description of the location. Yeah.
about the granite, I had one other thought on that. I'm familiar with a lot of like monuments and when they have placards that have information about a spot, historical markers, things like that. They are usually made on granite because it's such a durable material. So that's another option.
Okay.
Oh, almost like the kiosk of what the plaque would be on.
Right.
Okay. I see that. I like that a lot
I've
too.
I've seen that
just
across the country. So
to build on that, the double arcs. When I first read it, my first thought was that the arcs would have been like the base of a bridge, like the arcs that support a bridge.
Old. Time swift race, is that a river beyond the reach of time's swift race? Wonder guards a sacred place.
I was going to say there are very few double arc bridges too. So
what would be considered a sacred location? Cemetery?
See, I'm still back in the mythology of Ursa, and Ursa had guards guarding the gates. Now, this gets into some of the religious Bible stuff that I'm not as well versed at, but there is actual guards at the gate that are guarding her. So does it kind of keep going back and forth into mythology, or are we now out of mythology and totally boots on the ground? I'm still of the double meaning.
I think some of the things Justin has told us since the book has come out may be reinforcing some of these hints. So I take this part just simply as what he's told us about a location of secret and personal lore. I think he's trying to tell us here, this is where the treasure is, right?
I think you're still I think you're in the right direction, as you guys are all saying. But if the double arcs are beyond the place of reach that you're currently at, I think you're looking at it. You're looking at the arcs or archways, something in the bold of the mountains, and you're looking at it from where you're standing there. You're not going to be able to reach it, but you're on a foot race to where you're supposed to be. You're in the right direction.
That's a good catch. I hadn't even thought of the word reach all that much. That's a good catch.
Well, could it be beyond the constellation if we're overlaying the constellation on a map? Just a thought.
Oh,
And
for sure.
again, beyond the map's edge. I mean, that's killing me is that we have a map he's given us and he's named the book Beyond the Map's Edge. Are we supposed to go beyond the map? That's a whole nother conversation for later, but this says beyond the reach. So is it beyond the area, beyond the overlay of if there's an overlay?
So I'm assuming here in this stanza, we're there, we're at the location, but now we have to find what we're looking for, and that's the last stanza. Truth rests not in clever minds, not in tangled, twisted finds. Like a river's steady flow, what you seek, you already know. So the what you seek, you already know, he's saying if we watch Netflix or read the book, we should already know what we're looking for, or it will become apparent when we see it. Is that how you guys took that? What you seek, you already know? But like a river steady.
I think that goes back to the lure, but here's a question I have, and it's more higher level. If it's 10 sentences, 10 clues, why was Justin so perplexed in trying to, I mean, no offense to him, there's no way he didn't know the number of clues. So, and this even more so, how can he not remember 10 sentences, 10 clues? So have we kind of gone awry? Like,
and he said at least 10. So
I think the word at least is probably why he needed time.
Yeah, because I think a few of the clues probably have double meanings where they can play into two parts of your solve. And that's probably why he did at least 10.
yeah, like we don't have a take the chest and go in peace here. It's like, is this where, do we already have it? The clever minds didn't get to it and you have found it. Twisted finds, you found it. This is the one that I'm the most, do you already have it in hand? And what you seek, you already now have because you knew the lore and you found it with the word finds? Or is it, this is 9 and 10 and you do need 9 and 10 before you are physically picking it up? I don't know which way.
I think the part of not entangled, twisted finds is basically him just saying you don't have to do crazy mental gymnastics and, figure out how three-dimensional curved space relates to time travel in order to figure it out. Because that happens in some hunts where people go way off into left field. I think that was just my interpretation. I think that's a hint off to you don't have to go completely crazy with figuring it out.
Almost like a keep it simple
right.
kind of thing.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's not, you don't have to do 3 different levels of ciphering to figure out a clue.
Not entangled, twisted finds. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that means keep it simple.
Like a river, steady flow, what you seek, you already know. Well, there's a river reference again. I mean, time, swift race. Could there be a river reference in each one of these stanzas? Yeah, there's one here.
The other thing too is what else has Justin told us that this matches up with, that it's not a grid search in the end and like not in tangled twisted finds. That makes it sound like it's not in some forest where you got to do some grid search, bush to bush, tree to tree.
He said if we solve everything, it's an exact location.
And it wouldn't matter whether or not it was buried, which is very interesting. Makes it seem like you're standing on top of it and you know it.
Right.
Well, that make it into the cipher. He says there's a cipher in here.
Alexa, set a timer.
Well, I don't know if he actually said that, did he?
Something cipher-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he said there's something he added, but do we know it's the poem or could it just be in the book somewhere?
Now you
I think
asked
his
if
words
there's
were. Yeah, so
It's
go ahead.
a technical clue, right?
Technically, yeah. Some technical knowledge would be required. But
and he's IT, so that may not be a cipher. So,
but did we specify in the poem?
Well, the question was, is there a cipher? Well, look up exactly what was said, Mike. I'll go to his page 2.
There is a conquistador cipher in the book to add some weight to what Kpro saying, but
it mentions a conquistador cipher.
Yeah, the cipher's not in the book. It just
I just
mentions
got
it.
the
Yeah, you're
book
right.
today, the physical book.
So
Arrived today.
it says the question was, are advanced ciphers needed? There is one hint that I couldn't help but adding that could arguably require a slight bit of technical knowledge. It is not a critical hint, but there is one thing. He did not say whether it's the book or the poem.
Right.
So
And because he said hint, I just assumed the book, but yeah, I could be wrong. And he
Yeah,
didn't
and
say
I was at
cipher either, but yeah, he just said something technical knowledge. Right.
his answer to that question. It it seemed kind of um like he was mixing between technical or technology or like cipher, because your question was in regards to cipher, but then he went technically, and then there was another question about technology. So I don't know how that all played in. That one wasn't real clear for me when he answered it. It kind of seemed to mix between technology and cipher.
So
yeah, since the question was cipher, when he says it is not a critical hint, but there is one thing, I'm assuming the one thing is in relation to what we asked, which was the cipher.
I would think a critical hint is in the poem. So otherwise, if it's not critical, then it's probably just in the book, right?
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
So is it possible there is no clue in the last stanza? This is just saying, hey, once you're there, you're looking for what you already know. It's like up here it could be 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. Or there's more than one in these two
It's a
sentences up above.
yeah, different kind of clue. I don't know that it's not a clue, but
Right. Okay.
The
Well,
whole poem doesn't have to be.
let's talk about checkpoint. Is there anything that stands out in the poem that you think could be a checkpoint? Or is he talking about just something? I mean, he says it's so you'll know you're in the right location. We'd have to look up how exactly he said it. And I guess we could do that right now. And then
there's so many of these. Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, and then I was just gonna say I think it's a checkpoint for him to know when somebody's in the right location. So how would he be notified? Like how does it affect us and him at the same time?
Well, I think you're assuming you have to be at the location. I'm not that far yet. Is it more interactive, like the invitation that you get some sort of confirmation before you go boots on the ground? Because he talked about not having to go on days and days of vacation days, boots on the ground. I think we get that confirmation or that checkpoint before we go boots on the ground, or I'd lean more towards that way. I'm open to both, but I think we have some, my leading theory, and it might be totally wrong, is we get some sort of interactive confirmation, whether it's maybe a telephone number, maybe we had a whole discussion about the website having much more advanced interactive features than, it's not a static website. So is there something that we get before we go boots on the ground?
Well, this is interesting because I just looked up the question on the website. The question is there any sort of clue verification built into your poem? I don't know if that's how we worded it, but this is what he put on the website. Is there any sort of clue verification built into your poem? There is a checkpoint that will give you zero doubt that you are trending in the right direction. I thought he meant right direction physically, but no, he just says trending in the right direction. There's a clue verification built into the poem. There's a checkpoint that will give you zero doubt you were trending in the right direction. What can that mean?
Well, and when you asked the question, do you get that confirmation too? And he smiled. That's where I think the interactive part, for those of you that don't know, we did a hunt where you had to call a phone number. We knew when the first person called the phone number. You had to email us and you got an automatic, or email a certain email address. That I think that confirmation is definitely not at the end, but it is definitely something along the way. And the funny part is when the first person got the telephone number, no one could keep a damn secret. We had 20 phone calls within a couple hours. And then when somebody emailed, we had 20 emails, and they weren't all on the same team. So I think it'll spread fast once that checkpoint is found. I think it's an interactive confirmation before you go boots on the ground.
Oh, in the chat, he just asked, are you going to share it if you find the checkpoint? Would you share it or keep it to yourself? I guess it depends what it is. Like, so are we saying in this poem, there's maybe a cipher that gives you a website or a phone number or an email address, something like that?
Sounds kind of like
something
333 to me.
Well, what
It could be
about,
something as simple as a QR code.
doesn't
That when
he
you get
say
to a certain spot, you scan it.
doesn't he say something about, and I don't know if it's in the book or where it is, something about I don't want you wasting your vacation days like aimlessly wandering. Where is that? Because I want to read
Yeah,
those
that's
exact
that's
words.
what I'm saying. This answer is different than what he said. Was it with us? Let me see.
He didn't use the word vacation day. I just remember vacation
Yeah,
days, but
I remember that too. Was that on
yeah,
Jenny's? It might have been
That
on
was in
Jenny's.
Jenny's questions, I
Let's
think.
let's look at
let's
it.
bring up Jenny's. Yeah, and it could be Shawshank 5, whatever, you know, that
Hey
one.
guys,
Mike.
I'm Froggy.
Oh, that's Froggy's interview. Sorry. There we go. 6 questions. All right, I'll find it real quick.
Had some thoughts on the checkpoint. Um,
Fire away.
New to this treasure hunting stuff, but came across something that kind of randomly stood out to me was the random photo of the truck, the beast, where it says $100 to the first person who tells me where this photo is. That if someone finds out where that photo is and tells them, hey, this is where this photo is, it's not necessarily
It sounds like
the $100, but that's the checkpoint that would let someone know if they knew where that location of that photo was, they're on the right direction. And it would also let him know if someone said, hey, this is where this photo was taken, that someone is also on the right direction.
And just to clarify, that when he asked for that, he was talking about the topo that was on the back of his truck, right? Not the ones on the side.
There's just a random photo in the book of his truck. And it's
That's his truck.
It's in the field. It's on page 184 of the book.
Okay.
And it says $100 to the first person who can tell me where this was taken. Just kind of a random photo of his truck in a field with a little bit of mountain range in the background. But to me, I thought it would be a funny under the radar checkpoint if someone reached out and said, hey, I know where this photo was, and they're like, here's your $100, but in reality that was the checkpoint, the clue to, hey, I know I'm getting close to where this treasure is or the area of the treasure.
Okay,
Maybe.
so they found that and he confirmed that it was correct.
Yeah, he gave the location. So are we all now halfway through the puzzle, or
where was the location of the truck taken?
Colorado Springs.
Somewhere in Colorado, yeah.
Yeah, like I-25 or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he gave out the location and the person that won the money.
$100.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. That's why I just
Yeah,
thought.
and it is a known searcher, so I would have thought that if he didn't give out that confirmation.
So
Mike,
Love's
Mike,
coffee time. Just put it in the chat from the Serious Writing 6 questions. My treasure hunt has a built-in checkpoint that will give you that reassuring feeling of, yes, I'm not completely lost and wasting more precious vacation days on a wild goose chase.
well,
But
since
again,
he uses the word more, does that mean you're already boots on the ground? And you get it boots on the ground because it could be like the trail cams he set up at 9 Mile Hole. So you see maybe the trail cam has a little face of Tucker. So you get confirmation, ooh, that's Tucker's face, or a picture of him, or I don't know, the cover of the book. And he sees you on the trail cam, so he knows you are in the right spot.
I don't know. I don't think from these answers he gave, we can determine if it's on boots on the ground or if it's in the poem before you go. He says a fair amount can be solved from home of the poem. I don't think we can answer it until we figure out what it is. Somebody figures out what it is. I'm glad it's there. I just wish I had more info on what the checkpoint could be or is, or really actually if when they do the interview with Justin, treasure hunt with us, ask him, maybe he'll answer. Is the checkpoint something you figure out from the poem, or do you have to be boots on the ground? That'd be great if he would answer that.
Yeah, before you go boots on the ground or after. Yeah,
exactly. Before you go boots on the ground or after.
What if it's something that's historically Googleable, but he's the only person with the website and that information?
So it could be his website. Yeah, it's interesting to me that this website is so much more advanced than I ever realized.
Well, somebody's guessing that, or they just know he's put a lot of security protocols in place on the website, right? More than you normally
No,
would
and
have.
I don't fully understand it. I wrote down the words to help. They told me to tell you because you might understand what it means. Typically, when you set up a website, it is a
Static
something. Hold on, let me look.
IP?
Yeah, static something. This one's set up as a server rendered non-cached website. So that means that there's some sort of interactive part to it. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just throw up the data or throw up the words and like what you and I do on our website? We just throw up the words. It's not, but he used the word server rendered non-cached.
I think that's so it loads quicker.
Well, that opposite occurs because it is a static backend, not as static. He said it actually slows down the website.
And I actually remember this. So when one of our early shows, he was watching, but we were like, "Oh, go to the website." He updated it. Maybe it was the errata. I don't remember what it was. But when I went to it, I wasn't seeing what other people saw.
okay.
And
Perfect.
Justin emailed me, and he said, "Yeah, that's because of this." Like, in other words, it takes a minute for it to adjust to whatever. I don't remember what it is. I guess I could look through my emails and try and find it. But it just
Yeah,
makes it sound as if he did it that way on purpose for a reason, just so it would load a certain way. I don't know.
It's definitely loaded differently for different people at like synchronous times together. It's doing some weird stuff. Just leave it at that.
Okay.
Well, and to be fair, the programmer that was on our chat last night was not overstating like this is what it's for. He's just saying it doesn't make sense if this is just a website to put up some words and information. That is not how it is set up because it would be set up as a static website. This is a server rendered non-cached, which again, I don't even know what that means, but he was very thoughtful in making sure it's not overstated. He doesn't know what it means. He just knows if you set up a website 99.999% of the time, if you're just communicating information one way, you set it up as a static website. This is not set up that way. He had some guesses and some thoughts based on his, profession, but the possibility of some sort of interaction would be like, do you click on a certain part of the website? Do you get some, I don't know the answer. I'm just saying in general.
So to shed a little bit light on this one, I know some technical people, some engineer types. I don't have all that knowledge, but the ones that I know, like I got a engineer structural. When he builds something, he's taking out levels and measuring. It doesn't matter if it's a dog house or a bird house or like an add-on to his house. Like his sunroom, he treats the same with his dog house. He treats the same with like a little mini construction project. It's measuring 3 times. It's drawing plans out. It's cutting it. Everything he does is just to a high level. So if you have that background, why take the risk of or why put out just a words on a website to show everybody? I mean, it makes sense to me if he's that kind of person where he's building bat Dopplers and facial recognition software, he's also gonna take his website as far as his skills allow him to.
I was going to say, I have no tech knowledge, but could it be that creating it the way he did reduces maybe his risk of people hacking it or copying something or anything like that, maybe?
Well, and that's what the guy was saying is it's actually the opposite. If it was static, it's almost like, you throw it outside and you shut the door. This, however he has it set up, is more where it does leave a path into his server potentially to get hacked. Otherwise, you would want to do it static where you just put up the words and you cut the tie. This, and I may not be getting all of this just right, but we asked all these questions last night. He set it up in a way that it's needing a ton more security, and is he doing it for no reason? Many didn't think so. Maybe he just is trying to be fancy and he wants to expose his server and has to put in more money on security when he doesn't need it. Maybe not.
It could be a test of his skills, just seeing how well he can do and see the different ways people would try to potentially hack. I don't know. He does seem a little obsessive like that.
Get in on this chat. Treasure hunter people. Huh?
Mac, we can hear you.
Yeah,
there you
I
go.
muted.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know if we're any closer to anything. So, okay, as far as the poem, what do we need to find? We need to find who he is. We need to find who his bride is, right? We need to find where the hole is, which is a location, it sounds like. We need to find where the double arcs on Granite Bold are. And then I don't know, it says wonder guards this sacred place. I wonder if that is the location, like you're there. So does that mean the double arcs? Am I still sharing my screen? Yeah. Does that mean the double arcs on Granite Bold is just like the Blaze and Forest Fens? And when you're at the double arcs, like at the base, that's it. You can find it. It's what you're looking for is within sight of where you're at. So I wonder if those double arcs are the endpoint.
Yeah, I had the double arcs is like maybe lightning strikes on granite. So I found a few locations that have that type of rock formation or with rocks on it, but it's you can't hide a treasure there, so still searching.
Is granite common all through the West? Like, I don't know if there's, a mountain. Is it granite? Is it some other material? Is it all granite? Or is that just a word he used as a description, not literal?
It's pretty common. I mean,
Is it?
I know, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never paid attention to the the northern part of Colorado and Utah. I would say no. It's common on the Front Range, like Pikes Peak area. There's tons of granite. I don't know where those seams run through. And I don't know. That was a good question, because when I was talking about the double omegas, there would have to be like granite, like boulders for the river to cut around that changes the course of the river. I did notice something, as you guys we've been talking for quite a while, and you brought up the rivers the rivers commonality throughout the paragraphs, and he does bring it up again at the very end when he says, if you've had a clever mind like a river's steady flow, you stick with what you already know. So if we reach that point where we have, like, say, a star chart or a GPS checkpoint, and we've confirmed that things line up to that point, that's where we're at. I would think that would be about as big a checkpoint as you could get, but I don't know that how he would know, except for it would pretty quickly be commonly known throughout, the discussions and stuff, but which he could he could monitor most of those pretty easily with his tech background, like including voice chats and all of Discord and stuff. So I don't.
I'll just chime in with some info regarding the gates and constellation. So Pleiades, part of the Seven Sisters, it says. I'm only looking this up because of the conversations we had. But Zeus put her to the sky because created the stars. Let's see. Orion was in love with Pleiades, the seven sisters, daughters of Atlantis. He pursued them, and Zeus, angered by his action, placed them in the skies as a constellation. And then the Golden Gate of the ecliptic is a recognizable pattern of stars formed by the open star clusters Pleiades and Hyades in the constellation of Taurus, often viewed as a gate on either side of the ecliptic line. So just wanted to point out a gate reference in the constellations there. And then there's a Pleiades Peak in Washington, Mount, I'm gonna probably say this wrong. I have so many tabs open. Mount Baker - Snoqualmie National Forest. And looking at Justin's map, it does seem like there's a kind of a constellation looking dot next to the North Cascades National Park. If you look to the right of it, there's like a little white blotch, and that's kind of where the Mount Bakers is. And again, they have the Pleiades Peak.
Well, that's the poem, and I guess we could open it up if anybody wants to talk about Netflix hints or the book.
I can't tell if you guys can hear me, Mike.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, so this morning, and he says there's 10 clues in there. He's got looks like 10 sentences in the poem, and I guess I don't know how much I want to throw out, but it seems like the last sentence, I don't know if it's part of the clues. I think the clues are before the last sentence, because the last sentence seems to mirror Forrest Fenn's poem, where he says, what you seek, you already know. And Forrest also said, the answers I already know. And that basically symbolized the fact that the major clues were before that statement. So I think maybe, I don't know, I think Posey may be sort of giving us a similar hint. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would trend that direction.
It does seem like the clues are before that stanza, yeah.
And the first stanza, it was interesting. What hides in time. I don't think this is the answer, but the first thing that came to my mind is memories hide in time. But I think he's referring to. I might as well throw it out. It don't matter. I think it refers to the number of feet in a poem, the meter. I think the number of feet are critical to the final solve. So what you seek, when you go through the whole poem, somehow we have to total the number of feet. I don't know if you guys are familiar with poem structure and syllables, but he's been very close in his syllable structure, and the syllables of a poem break down with an accent. And with each accent, you produce 1 foot, 1 meter, one foot in your poem. So I probably shouldn't tell that to anybody. It's probably a major hint, but I don't know the answer to this, and I think it's going to take a little while, but that's my first run at it.
That's I posted a scansion of the poem with a breakdown of the meter and the feet and the accents is posted in the Discord.
Okay, excellent. So I think that's one of the major, that's what you're supposed to find. I apparently you agree?
I did. I don't anymore, but I figured it's helpful for somebody, so it's up there in Cowlazars if you want to access it. It's in somewhere in one of the poem sections.
Okay. So you don't think that that plays a part anymore? You changed your mind?
Or I'll just say I got to a dead end. I'm not a poem guy, so I know how to count, so I just counted up everything and posted it up there if anybody wants to run with it.
Is this Estes?
Yeah, it's Froggy.
Okay, hey Froggy.
Hey, what's going on? For me, for the first line, I got if we're opening the floor a little bit, I'm leaning toward like legends are stories. What lives in time, legends and stories live in time, and that's why I keep going back to my boy Pecos Bill. You know, wild legend, American Southwest. You know, stories that everybody would hear as a kid growing up in that area. So that's and that leads me to the river. That leads me to the dam. That just kind of leads me all through the steps there.
It's not bad, Estes, because I've actually talked with Justin Posey before, and when he was trying to solve the Forrest Fenn treasure, he said that he believed context was everything, and that you had to have the context in order to solve the poem. So I definitely believe that he has structured his poem inside a larger context, and somewhere in his book, he gives us that context. And once we figure out what it is, then I think we can figure out where he's telling us to go. And so, starting with your idea of, what was it? Did you say Pecos?
Yeah, Pecos Bill. So, I mean, I started like everybody else with memories, and I didn't really like where that got me. So I kept thinking, what else lives in time? If you think about like oral tradition before the written word, then legends and stories are what live in time. And so, if you think of legends and stories in certain areas where he grew up, Pecos Bill, you know, the legendary uh, folktale story of that area.
That's beautiful. Anybody else agree with that?
Yeah, I think it would have to do with like a something oral, like a story, whether it's that one or one of the other ones. The person who finds it will probably figure it out. But yeah, I believe that was a hint off to his stories.
I was also thinking about the connection to the Fenn treasure that Justin was very, very near, but didn't actually find. And also in
Barry, can you show me the words to the song Pecos Bill?
Keep going.
Pecos Bill, yeah, I'm familiar with the story, but about Justin, he just gave an interview and he said he used to hide things for himself. So I'm thinking maybe he's looking for something similar to how Fenn, or what do you think it's like? What's the relation to the Fenn treasure story and this time? What's the difference? What the maybe similar?
Yeah, that comment, this may sound stupid, but I hid things for myself. He said that with a laugh. It definitely could be his way of, how deep is a hole.
A place like that, even if you know where it is, when you return, it will be hard to actually find in the forest, If you don't mark it very exact location, it will be hard to find again after a year or two or three. If he got, maybe he wants to join the search himself.
So here's something I like what you said, hid something in the forest. I came across this with the other famous author that's also doing a big hunt. He also played games solo. So when you play a game solo, if you're intelligent, the way you can get an outcome that you're not aware of is you introduce an element of chance to it. So if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons solo, you introduce a die roll to make the thing random. If you're hiding treasure for yourself, you hide it in an environment that's going to change. Like you said, you hide something outside, you go inside, you come back later, maybe it moved. And so one thing about the Arizona desert that I've been learning about the geography there is if you hide something before it rains, you go back out, there's no telling where that thing is because the water hits the ground and it just moves all over the place. So that's one way you could have made a treasure hunt for yourself is by doing something right before it rained and then you got to go find it.
It kind of fits with this theory someone posted on Discord about the place. There is a place called Posey Trail in South Utah near the Arizona border, near a town called Blending. There is a local state road 95 that crosses this nice valley, and there is actually Arch Canyon nearby, and it's like what you say, like this more dry valley. If it gets flooded, something can go very far in the flood seasons, I guess. And some marked trails, some unmarked trails there. Lots of place to just wander.
But if
Roads
that
to
treasure is going to get
other side.
moved, then this poem is going to be useless.
Yeah, I don't like that idea. And I also think it lends itself to dangers. And he said that you could get fairly far to solving this and getting almost to the right spot. And he also said that you don't need a metal detector. If you know where you're going, it doesn't matter. So something about it has to be pretty precise. In the documentary, he said he went looking for his brother somewhere. Does anybody remember? I mean, he showed some video.
It was just outside Tucson.
Just outside Tucson.
Yeah, he talked about the road marker, the mile marker, first mile marker outside Tucson. I think it was to the east.
What about the weird sign in the legal page in the bottom? This symbol, Unicode ink. Maybe it's somewhere out there in the States on some sign. A clue, I'm not sure. Maybe some fans will just start putting it. I don't know.
So just a question for the group. Does anybody have strong feelings that it's not Wyoming or Montana? I should say Montana. Because I'm getting a lot of strong vibes there. I just didn't know if like beyond the map's edge, when Cowlazars did and Capar did the interview, he kind of leaned over and you saw the map of Wyoming behind him, or maybe that was Yellowstone. I don't remember, but just right outside of that, I know from the book, I read the whole book, and he had a lot of strong ties to the area around Dillon, Montana. I didn't know if you guys all are like, absolutely not.
I'm hearing from a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the Dillon area. There's a lot of people in Utah. There's a lot of people in Alaska. Those are the ones that I think are the most prevalent and discussed right now. And then, of course, there's sprinklings of everywhere else. But those are the three that I am hearing the most, or the three kind of regions.
Okay, because I know he's big fisherman, and I know he talks a lot about his family history and stuff, and the word hole is capitalized, so that's a place, right? And so there, the Big Hole River's right up there around that park that he talks about. So I think it's Beaverhead. So I just didn't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion in that area.
Okay.
And
okay.
yeah, I think there was a chat last night that I think they started at Big Hole and went point to point. And it was fascinating to really, it was almost like, okay, we think that this area, let's see if we can go point to point. And
Gotcha.
it was interesting to listen to, of just
Sorry, I
all
wasn't
that you can discover.
Okay.
I only got in there halfway through, and it was fascinating halfway through. So they did some good work, or good discussion of just possibilities. It was good.
Does Alaska count as the American West?
Does to Justin.
What I have for Beyond the Map's Edge is Beyond Fenn's Map's Edge.
Yeah,
so I have that as going off of that map.
Oh, I like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's the same thing I have.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
So simple.
Christy, this is Alan. I think he did mention that he had his sights on this spot, sort of like Ben did, pretty early. At some point during the hunt, he was thinking about if he found the chest, he'd rehide it. I would need to see evidence that he spent a lot of time in Alaska to sort of orient that way. It makes me think maybe not. And then the other side of that is I am thinking that the chest is below 5,000 feet. And the reason I'm saying that is because one of the most compelling hints to me during the chase was 5,000, between 5,000 and 10,200. And that really we saw as an important clue that he avoids completely talking about altitude. And so I'm going to be surprised that the chest is above 5,000 feet myself, because it would have been so easy to just include an altitude clue that he did. And of course, spots in Alaska, most of those spots would be above 5,000 feet. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I like the thoughts. I am not convinced yet, kind of like what you're saying. I almost think it's a disadvantage of being a forest ven hunter because we make some assumptions. I'm not assuming this is necessarily a spot that he searched for Fenn's treasure. If he ever is able to confirm that, that would be great, because then I think we would be able to say it's 5 to 10-2 type of thing. So, but no, I agree with what you're saying. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot to sift through.
I would say if it is a place you look for Forrest Fenn's treasure, it might be start at Iron Springs, because that may be the last place he searched with Brandon, right? So
here's my question then for you, K-Pro. If it's not a place he searched for Fenn's treasure, what other relevance do we potentially see with the safe combination?
So I mean, it's a good question, and it's just a theory. I'm not hard thoughts either way, because I don't want a confirmation bias myself. So my thought is if that lock, and I'm still not convinced, but it is an interesting coincidence, if that lock takes you to Yellowstone, and this happened because of Forrest Hunt, he went out 300 times for Forrest Hunt. His spot is his own. Maybe let's just use an example that he went with his father or grandfather, or just something outside of the hunt. But he's paying homage to Forrest and saying, I'm going to start it where 9 Mile Hole or Yellowstone was, which is where Forrest treasure was. That's my throwback to him. But now I'm going to my spot that I went with my grandfather or my father, which is what Forrest did. And it's something not related to a boots on the ground. I don't know yet, but that would be an example of, and then the 10 points and the going along the way of the poem is not related to Forrest, except for that was your starting point, because he needed to start it somewhere.
Yeah, but he said in your interview specifically that you don't have to know about Forrest Fenn's. He made
Right,
that
so that's why he gives you a GPS. He makes it simple. You don't need to know you just need to know Yellowstone is the starting point, and he gave it to us in a GPS. Whether it's Forrest Fenn or not, I think you don't need to know about Forrest Fenn. He gave you GPS.
But the other thing is he said he had no creative control over the filming and what was and wasn't included.
Right.
Unless, that was one of his hopeful hints that would make it. But even at that and I didn't catch it in the series. Were those a continuous shot of him doing the comm on the safe, or no?
It was in episode 1, I believe. In episode 3, the lock is shown, I think, 3 different times. Only episode 1, it shows it like the entire thing together. Episode 3, I believe, it only shows like 1, and then he pops the safe or the vault open.
No, that's the other way around. Episode 1 has one number. Episode 3, it is all together. He does all 3 numbers all together. Actually, all 4 numbers. I take it back.
And would you be able to get there with just like in a vacuum? Would you still get to Yellowstone?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I was gonna say, I'm also guessing that whatever he allowed them to film was not his actual safe comm.
Right.
He probably just rotated those numbers for the camera and then opened it on his own, because I don't know how much it takes to program those safes, but it's gotta be a little something.
Yeah.
What does the lock have to do with Yellowstone?
My guess is he opened it before cameras were rolling.
Yeah, I don't think it actually shows him open it. It just shows him do the numbers, but I'd have to rewatch it to double check.
If you watch the numbers,
there is a shot that opens it, but I don't think that's his actual safe code.
Well, what I mean, K-Pro, is that I don't think any of us would, if somebody had a camera recording or their phone up, you would do the combo, right? You would maybe already have it unlocked so that, before the cameras were there rolling.
The numbers were intentional. It definitely means something, in my opinion.
Sure.
Definitely a hint to something. The
The numbers,
GPS leads to the Yellowstone. Make of it what you will.
the safe numbers, when he enters them in, when you're opening a safe, you have to pass the second, third number, 2 times, 3 times when you're landing on it. So there's a pattern to opening the dial. If you notice, he doesn't pass the numbers he's landing on. So it's very intentional ploy on the numbers he lands on because he's not doing the turns and the sequence to actually unlock a safe.
That's 100% true.
A safe is definitely a metaphor for unlocking, like maybe the first step, or I like the metaphor.
It could potentially even be where the checkpoint's at. Maybe at the checkpoint you need to input those numbers, and then that proves to you you're on the right path. If there's some kind of a little lockbox or something, like when they sell a house, they put a little key inside of a lock on a door, and you have to be able to punch in the code to open it to get the key. Maybe the safe com is com to something like that. And that might be the checkpoint.
Well, we are coming up on an hour. Actually, I'm sorry, we're coming up on 2 hours. So we were thinking of ending the Zoom and just going into Discord Speakeasy for if you guys wanted to continue the conversation. What do you think?
Yeah, let's move over to Speakeasy.
And then that way I can start to upload this up to YouTube for those who missed it. But thanks for joining. I think we'll do another one down the road. Some good discussion on the poem and what the 10 clues could actually be. The star map idea, that's interesting. It definitely has something to do with constellations, right? I mean, Ursa and 20 degree, it's just figuring out what it is. I guess that's the trick.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he wouldn't tell us his anything about constellations says something. So, I know some people don't have books, and so just let you know that when we interview Justin, we'll get that one question in because it was really good. I wrote it down. What did you guys say?
On the checkpoint. We were wondering.
Oh, the checkpoint. Is it before or after? That's a great question. So I wrote that down to ask him.
Yeah.
And then also in that interview, we're going to give away 3 books to try to help people out that don't have books. So if you have a book, please, don't try to get one. But if you don't have one, we'd like to try to help out. So,
how far will you ship it?
I don't think that. I mean, we're talking like UK, or are we talking like Alaska?
I'm on the same continent.
Yeah, I don't think Alaska is gonna be a problem if that's what you're saying. So we'll make it happen.
Have I not said A yet?
Oh, Canada. I think he means Canada.
Canada?
Yeah.
Canada? Yeah. I don't know what the shipping is for that, but I'm sure we'd make it happen. So
I'm more worried about tariffs, don't worry.
Yeah, and we can help you with you have to fill out a custom thing because we had somebody when we gave away books, they were in overseas or actually in Canada, and there's extra forms and things. It'll be fun at the post office. Oh, perfect. Now you just send it to customs.
So if we do find it in Canada, we can contact him and he'll get it through, right? To get back into the US, it won't be a problem.
Oh, don't open that can of worms. I've gotten enough feedback on that.
I'm not gonna comment on that.
You know what day you're gonna do the interview, Jam? Or is it to be decided?
We're still scheduling. So he contacted us and we're still trying to work it out. So hopefully we'll know soon and we'll get it soon. And of course, as soon as we're done, we'll put it up right away.
Awesome. All right, everybody. So make sure you check out a Treasure Hunt with us on YouTube. We're going to have a new interview with Justin and give away 3 books. So, okay, I'm going to shut it down. Jump on over to Discord. Let's talk about it. And let's keep talking about it over there. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And thanks for the thoughts.
Thanks.